Now then, would any of you have laughed if you'd read Paul Chambers' tweet during the snowy days of early January this year? Miffed that the bad weather had forced his local airport to close, he told his 600 followers on Twitter, "Crap, Robin Hood Airport is closed. You've got a week and a bit to get your poo together. Otherwise, I'm blowing the airport sky high." That's what he tweeted. And a few days later, he had Plod knocking on his door. They'd been alerted by airport staff who stumbled across the tweet by accident while looking for news items about the snow online. In May, Paul was convicted of sending a menacing communication. He was fined. He also lost his job as a financial supervisor. He went on to appeal, lost that, and now £3,000 out of pocket. He's going to take his case to the High Court. Paul argues passionately that he wasn't making a bomb threat, he was simply sounding off. It was foolish, he accepts that, but it was only ever intended to be a joke he was sharing with close friends. The district judge, Jonathan Bennett, however, found Paul to be aware that his tweet was of a menacing nature. Anyone making similar tweets would also be investigated. But thousands of Twitterers disagree with that view and are supporting Paul. Stephen Fry has even offered to pay his legal costs. So, is even a joke threat a real threat? And don't forget the defrocked Tory councillor Gareth Compton. He's the guy who said of our friend Yasmin Ali-Brown that she should be stoned to death and then defended his tweet unsuccessfully by claiming it too was a joke. Then again, I should tell you that Paul Chambers' girlfriend got in touch earlier to say, would the old Bill start nicking people who say at the end of the working day they'd murder for a pint? Now, I think it's just a joke. I can see that as clear as day, and I'm sure a lot of you guys on the panel will, but I also remember seeing a 14-year-old girl standing in front of me many years ago before 9/11 going on a package holiday to Ibiza. And the security people said, "What's in your bag?" that had just been scanned, and she said, "A bomb," and they literally took her away and marched her off somewhere and never to be seen again.
Bet she doesn't have a criminal record.
Well, there is that. There is that.
And
so, any sympathies for Paul Chambers here?
The fact that it's an absolute, complete joke that this has gone anywhere beyond. It's a complete bureaucratic beat up. It's crazy that... I mean, I don't think... Surely no one actually thinks this is the right thing. I mean, I get death threats on the internet. Why aren't they all... And actual serious death threats on the internet saying you're going to go to hell and I'm going to send you there early from fundamentalist Christians and stuff. And why is this, which is quite clearly hyperbole, just like, you know, I assume when this judge who just, you know, rejected his appeal rings her husband and he says, I just watched Saw 3 and I pooed myself. She doesn't think that, you know, like, we use language all the time and it's actually... The fact that it was such a grand gesture, i.e. hyperbole, is the very thing that gives you the hint that it's not a threat.
I think that the 3 exclamation marks that were at the end of it...
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think surely everything is about intention. And the intention... You know, Twitter is an online world where you have 140 characters to write witty, pithy, quickly, and some people can do it better than others. You know, yes, this was an ill-advised, rather silly, stupid thing. Which
you say intention. You say intention. If you can say you can clearly see the intention of his tweet, can you not also clearly see the intention of the authorities, which is to stop other people wasting authorities' time making bomb threats?
Wrap his knuckles, tell him off, take him down, give him a caution. How did this get as far as it did to a trial? What an absolute waste of money. And people that I respect enormously, Stephen Fry, Graham Linehan, David Schneider, have all stood up and said, this is crazy. You know, you have to... The argument is, was it a joke or wasn't it? And when does it become illegal to tell a joke? Clearly, he maybe should have put it...
The Tory councillor who says of Yasmin Ali-Brown she should be stoned to death?
Then he put...
Completely different points. Completely different points. One,
but he says he was joking.
Yeah. Well, A, he's an elected official in an elected capacity, therefore what he tweets is different. Our man here is a civilian. I think where he's been let down is his tweet actually wasn't funny.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm an expert of not being funny, so... Do you know what I mean? If it had been funnier, right, then perhaps it would have been interpreted differently. What Mr Minchin says is absolutely correct. I mean, we don't have... With the exception of Glasgow, if we're being absolutely honest about this, terrorists don't attempt to bomb airport buildings. They attempt to bomb planes or fly planes into buildings. So in terms of a precedent, we've had one instance of 2 stupid terrorists driving into the front of Glasgow airport. So, you know, and also, he'd be the worst bomb terrorist in the world. He's given them a week's notice, and you can find him.
But he also didn't tweet it to the airport. He didn't tweet it to the airport. It was just a Twitter, and he used the mistake he made was blurring it as a text message.
But are we not blind to what the authorities are trying to get across, which is to ensure that other people, pranksters, jokers, fools, don't do the same things,
but
so
the
that we don't end up...
unsustainable. You cannot try to govern online dark humour. And your question, can a bomb tweet joke ever be funny, is not relevant. It's not... It doesn't matter that he failed to be funny. We're not... The government's not there to say, well, that's not very... No, it's not ironic enough for us. Yeah, it's not... Exactly. It's not our job to judge whether something's funny. It's our job... It's their job to try and distinguish what is serious in all this rhetoric that goes around. And it is not... It didn't look serious for 1 second.
If you want to stop pranksters wasting people's time, put the fear of God into them, North Korea style, and then they won't do it anymore.
But
no, you should be allowed to be a prankster.
I mean, I agree. This has ruined this man's life. You know, his effective beauty. He has a criminal record now. You know, this has cost him a fortune, and who knows what the lasting implications because of a silly. And one can clearly see that the intention was.
But
not
if it stops other people doing it, it's going to be the scapegoat.
But if it stops other people doing what? Being ridiculous on Twitter.
Exactly.
But, you know, I mean, listen. The overwhelming majority of Muslims in this country are peace-loving, good people. But there are a handful of preachers who preach hate in mosques, certain mosques in this country. I don't see them.
It took 5 years to get Abu Hamza.
You know what I mean? How long did it take to sort Abu Hamza?
Admittedly, with Abu Hamza, we had to introduce new legislation in order to nick him. Let's throw it over to you guys at home. Hear what you have to say. Kirsty.
OK, we have Paul Chambers' girlfriend on the phone on line 1. It's Sarah.
OK. Hi, Sarah. Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you think... can you understand that the authorities may be trying to send a message to other jokers and pranksters?
I'm not too sure about that, because if they are trying to send a message, it hasn't really worked. It's just got people rather angry and worked up. You know, because of the fact that, you know, apparently we're not allowed to make a flippant comment on the internet anymore in conversation on Twitter. So, I mean, I think, like, I've said things, you know, like, oh, I could kill my son, or, you know, I could strangle Paul, and I shouldn't be arrested for that. So, even hardly...
Be careful what you say, Sarah, in case you give the coalition new ideas, of course. Do you... without giving too much away, do Paul's legal team think he's got a chance of winning this at the High Court?
I don't think they would take it on if they didn't.
Right.
I mean, I think, you know, the overwhelming majority of people, you know, have supported Paul and, you know, have agreed that this is, you know, completely ridiculous and you know, people should be allowed to say whatever they want. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that the people do believe, hopefully, that common sense will win out.
You see, do you think people should be allowed to say whatever they want? I used to think that, and I've changed my mind of sorts, that freedom of speech carries a certain burden, self-imposed burden of restriction and awareness and sensitivity to the needs, feelings and requirements of others.
Yeah, well, you know, obviously that is a good point, but, I mean, Paul was clearly making a joke. He was clearly not serious. I mean, at the beginning of the show, Hardeep said that he would be on death row, having done away with Gillian McKeith.
Yeah.
I mean, should he be arrested as well?
But you see, so I'm thinking of this teenage girl that I saw, and this is before 9/11, so when we're still in the sort of post-Irish Republican wave of terror, as that was gradually fading away. And I mean, they put the fear of God into me, the way they literally grabbed her and she was gone. I mean, presumably off for a big telling off and nothing more than that. But it made me think, when I've been with other people and they're just about to go, oh, there's a bomb in there, I say, don't do it, because in an airport queue you're going to get into trouble.
Yeah,
perhaps the greater good of society is being served with Paul's conviction.
But don't you think that's different to saying if you're actually in an airport and you're in a queue? It's very provocative if somebody says... It is a totally different thing.
It's a bit like, if the Tory councillor had said what he said about Yasmin Alibi-Brown around a dining table with fellow Tories, you know, with £45 bottles of red wine, that's one thing.
Yeah.
To go publicly, you know, on Twitter... is a different thing altogether. You know, I mean, the other night I came home from work late and I said I could murder a Donna.
But then you see,
and I had to go straight back on and explain it was a kebab and not a girl.
You're contradicting yourself because Twitter, what's made it difficult is Twitter, because it is a... Paul is communicating to his followers, but by definition, Twitter is also a form of publication. I think this is where the world of Twitter is going to be open for debate and reinterpretation, because the problem is you can often use it as almost text messaging your friends, but it isn't. It is a form of publication.
Exactly.
It is a form of publication. So, forgive me, Hardy, because we've got loads of calls as well. I just want to say thank you, Sarah, for giving us a call. I really appreciate it.
We have Helen next on line 3.
Helen, good morning.
Oh, hello. Hello.
Hi.
I was just basically thinking when you were saying that, when someone says when they've got a bomb in their bag, or I'll joke about a bomb, C4s and things like that, just imagine, like, say it all blew up and all the people, like all the CSI and people who deal with that, the bomb disposal people, and they all close the airport down and things like that. Now, think of it that way. They're all there trying to defuse maybe a bomb that really doesn't exist, and then there could be a real threat somewhere else.
But, Helen, in the case of this example, we're not in the airport, there is no bomb. He's just published a comment on Twitter.
Right. OK. Still, that is quite important not to do that, because people do take things very literally.
But that's Tim's point, is they shouldn't. We should see what a joke is a joke, and if you can't see the joke, you need your head examined.
Yeah, but if someone is in that airport at the time and they're twittering, like, a person on there that says that...
But the people in the airport stumbled across the tweet because they were looking for information about snow and what news stories there were about their airport. So it wasn't that they'd been sent a bomb threat. They just stumbled across somebody else's...
I think the caller has a valid point of view. I guess the point is, every time someone does something silly that requires attention from authorities, it takes the authorities' time away from doing the work they should be doing. But the authorities have the responsibility to figure out what is actually worth their time. And no one...
But I think they have, and I think they've taken the view that prosecuting this guy will stop other people doing it.
Well, firstly, is it OK to ruin someone's life for a precedent? And secondly, no, it won't. I mean, and what's the end of that? An Orwellian society where we're all too scared to make jokes. I mean, I make jokes 10 times as bad as that all the time. It is ridiculous that
you would be a comedian on stage, or you're a known brand. Does it not?
The racism and hideousness that is flying around the net on a minute-by-minute basis, and the hatred, the invective that...
Trust me, I read a lot of it about myself.
I mean, you must have got death threats.
I have had death threats.
There's some ugly stuff out there that
I've threatened to kill you.
I've threatened to kill you.
I've also had enormous underpants sent to me as well, which is
actually, can I have them back?
Helen, thank you for the call. Let's get another on.
OK, we have Nick next on line 4.
Nick, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Very well. What's your take on this, Nick?
Well, I just think it's a ridiculous waste of time in terms of the time spent in court and the prosecution.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
even if it stops other people doing it?
Sorry?
Even if it stops other people doing it?
Well, if it stopped other people doing it, wouldn't it?
Just making a flippant remark and using humour.
Well, then it's a flippant remark that involves blowing up an airport. We live in a hideously scary terror times, or so I'm constantly told by the Daily Mail. We have to... the authorities, the services are stretched. We've got cost cuts, which are going to lead to reductions in police officer numbers. Why waste everybody's time even making a joke about it, a joke that isn't even funny? If we make an example of this bloke... this isn't what I think, by the way. This is just devil's advocate.
The word funny, though, is subjective, isn't it? Everybody's sense of humour is very different.
Of course.
My point is, though, a lot of us repeated that tweet last week with a hashtag on Twitter of I am Spartacus, so why haven't we been arrested and hauled through the court?
It's a Kafkaesque world, isn't it, where this entire court case has happened. There is something so Kafkaesque about it, because it's actually about what is funny and what isn't. And that seems to be the bigger issue.
But I think we need to, strip that doesn't matter to this. You know, what's fun... I know exactly, that's right, that's what it's sat on.
I'm more interested in the making example of one person, and, as you said, Tim, ruining his life for a greater good that is... perhaps it will make some people think twice, but will it actually make any difference to terror alerts?
And the thing is,
if you're a terrorist, some poor bloke getting dragged through the courts...
Go and recruit him.
It's not going to stop you doing it. Do you know what I mean? Who's it stopping?
Exactly. What is it actually stopping?
Okay. I'm going to wrap this up because we've got to take a break to pay the bills. But thank you very much for all your calls, your tweets and everything else, particularly the ones that didn't make threats.